Okay, welcome to another episode of Chit Chat Chai, where we chit chat.
And have chai.
Yeah, nice. But obviously, it's a heat wave right now, so we're having cold water and juice today. Look at these new cups. Zoom in, Julian, yeah? Yeah, marvelous. You can see some cups over there. We're not selling them, they're for us. So today we have a really special guest. We have Jannah. We'll add her YouTube links everywhere. I've invited her to the podcast today because she's had an extraordinary journey about learning languages and exploring languages. And recently she's released a couple of videos, but the one that's most prominent that I feel was where you learned Japanese in what, 6 months?
Yeah, about 6 months.
And you learned Urdu in how many months?
5 months. I spent learning.
Madness. Yeah. And then she had fluent conversations with Urdu with her ma, who's at the back. Do you want to say hi? Yeah, hi. Yeah. And then she spoke Japanese with her best friend as well, right?
Yeah.
So, Jannah, do you want to give a quick intro to who you are, what you do, and where your YouTube stuff is at as well?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Jannah, currently working at KPMG as a software engineering degree apprentice. And my YouTube is mainly about language learning. So that's the niche at the moment. And yeah, like Yasin said, I've made a video surprising my mum with Urdu and then surprising my best friend with Japanese. But the YouTube is, the niche is kind of up for debate at the moment. So we'll see where it goes in the next few years.
Oh, what are you thinking of doing in the future?
I think the videos that I've had most fun with and that have done the best are the ones where I'm learning something and then surprising someone. So I think that kind of format of video works. The only issue is it takes a long time, obviously, like half a year to prepare something like that. Yeah. So I'm looking into like talking to a consultant about YouTube strategy. Inshallah, we'll see how it goes over the next few years.
Whatever secrets they tell you, let us know.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so in the first segment, we wanted to go into your motivation behind learning languages. Because you could choose any topic on the planet, right, to learn, but you've specifically chosen language. What was the reason behind it?
Okay, so I randomly stumbled upon a course by someone called Ollie Richards. So I've talked about it on the channel. And his course is essentially, he teaches you how to learn languages through stories. And I just found it absolutely like revolutionary. It was like the most amazing piece of content that I've come across. I think I left a review saying it was like the best purchase I've made. It was the best value for money I've ever had. So I just found the course. I really liked the vibe of it, which was learning languages by immersion. So I bought it. It was a little bit pricey, but I thought it was an investment. And I think from buying that course is what started or triggered the sort of love of language learning. Yeah. And then after that, I think once you do something once, it can become like a template model. Yeah. And so it became easy for me to see it like, okay, I did it like this for Japanese, and then you could do that for anything.
For any other language?
Yeah.
And what was the story element behind that? So you said learning languages through stories, right? So
yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, okay, so I think the traditional way that people learn languages is if you think about like your German or Spanish high school experience, you get taught a bunch of grammar rules and then you get taught a bunch of vocab and you're expected to just kind of like merge it together. Yeah. And the way that you're examined on if you know that language is you do like a bunch of standardized tests. The story learning method is essentially, he gives you a story, 20 chapters, and you're following along in the English and the Japanese. So like the first chapter, you'll read the Japanese and listen to it and understand zero of it. And then you'll do that for like a week, 2 weeks, while understanding the English. So you have the context of the story. Yeah. And then when you're listening to Japanese, suddenly you pick up words and suddenly you understand grammar structures. And all the while he's giving you little tad bits of what the grammar actually is. And then by like chapter 20,
you're flying through it.
Yeah.
That's kind of similar how, the way we're learning Quran. Yeah. So yeah, because like you're reading the Arabic, and like we don't know Arabic, but then when you read the English, and then on Quran.com, I don't know if anyone's seen, but you can play the guy can recite the Arabic while you read the English.
Right. Okay.
So you know the tonality.
Yeah.
So as the guy's reciting, like he emphasizes on some words, and you'll be catching up to that line in English. Yeah. So you'll understand why he's emphasizing that tone. Okay. Yeah. So maybe that's the same thing. Like
I have that viral Quran book where it has the actual English word underneath.
I really want to get that. Yeah. I've heard about this.
So it helps a lot because as you keep, like for example, on Friday you read Surah Al-Kahf, yeah? So as you're reading it, you know the English story, but then the Arabic, you're able to like connect to it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
That is nice.
Yeah, no, exactly the same.
Okay. No, now I understand it. Yeah. So when you're immersing yourself in these stories, so it's like they give you like 20 lessons or something, 20 chapters, And then the way you immerse yourself is that like you're listening to it like all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think this is where the difference in dedication is. Like if I was doing a course, I'd be dedicated during the course time. But then like when I'm on trains and stuff, I'm like doing random things. But you'd be listening to that on the train as well, right?
And I hear that. So I think at the same time, I picked up a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits, like super popular. Everyone's heard of it. So I read that book, and he said a lot of things that really resonated. So one of them was like trigger cues. So for example, like leaving my headphones in a really obvious place. And then also building up a habit of every time I go out or every time I'm cleaning or every time I know I'm going to be on the train, like my headphones are just there. And so it becomes an automatic behavior.
It becomes an atomic habit.
It does, yeah. No, exactly. That's exactly what happened.
That was so cheesy. All right. So one of the languages that you learned was Urdu, right?
Yep.
And your ma is from India and she speaks Urdu, Hindi? A mix of both? Yeah.
No, not Hindi, Urdu.
Okay, cool. And what was the like main emotional driving force behind learning it? Because you speak English at home, right?
We do, yeah, because Jannah's dad is from Bangladesh, so he speaks Bengali.
Yeah.
And my parents were from India, and they spoke Urdu. But the common language between
Is
us
English.
two, between me and my husband, were English.
So you had no idea she even had the interest of learning it, right?
I think I had told her when she surprised Aisha with Japanese that she should do Urdu next.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I never believed that she would do it. And she's not exposed to it either because my parents have both passed away. So she hasn't been exposed to it for quite a few years. So I didn't think that she would actually do it because I didn't know what the purpose for her to learn it would be. But yeah, it was a really nice surprise.
No, that's nice. The next segment is going to be in Urdu. No, I'm joking.
I just pass out. I'm like, what?
Yeah, so how did it feel? Like, what was the reasoning behind it?
So, funnily enough, with both of the surprises, like, yeah, there's like an emotional connection. You're like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. But I remember very vividly with Japanese, I was like, this is just like the biggest practical joke I could play on anyone. And it's the funniest one I could do. And there's the most input of effort, and therefore the reward is going to be 10 times better than anything else I could do. So the whole time I was doing it, I was like, oh, this is going to be so funny. This is going to be so jokes. Like, when I actually start speaking Japanese, she's going to be like, what the hell? So, like, I think even with Urdu, there's more of a personal connection because it's my mother. But at the same time, I was like, I just can't wait to see the look on her face. This is going to be like such a got you moment. This is going to be so funny.
That paid off.
Yeah, and it was. Which I think is also why I never go deeper into it. Yeah. Because once the moment of me seeing like, oh, this was like kind of so funny to see this, the appeal kind of dies down. And so the deeper connection isn't there. I think the only language for me that makes the most sense to like go fully fluent and, you know, be able to talk in a almost native level is Arabic. Because for us, that's like a religious draw to it. Yeah. But everything else, there's a lot of work that goes from getting from beginner level fluency to native level fluency, like a lot. It's like the curve is literally like you increase so quickly, so you feel really great when you go from 0 to, you know, like kind of beginner level conversation, but then it just tapers and like so. And
I think that's where the discipline kicks in, right? To just keep at it. Because I learned Spanish, and I got to a point where I could understand like 60 to 70% of most conversations, but I couldn't have the conversation.
Right, okay.
Because the way I was speaking Spanish was just wrong half the time, you know. Like I couldn't find the right words, or my grammar would be messed up, or I'd say one word, but it's actually a complete other word. Yeah. And it was mad. But you know, in Urdu, one thing that my brothers struggle with, even I struggle with, is, you know, the masculine and feminine words. Like, why is not the ha hu he.
That's Arabic, no?
Is it?
No, bro. No, it's not. It's Urdu.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a joke. But you know, in Urdu, there's a car is gadi, right? But why isn't it gada? You know, like, who decided that it's a feminine gadi? You get me? Like, these things catch me off guard. So how do you deal with that? Because in English we don't have this, right?
Well, with like things like verbs and the way that you like address different people, because I knew that this was a feature of the language, it's something that I built into the program that I made for myself. Ooh, okay. So with Japanese, it's actually, you know, when you're saying, oh, these are like such different languages, I don't know, there's so many components that are similar. In Japanese, there's like no difference in tense. So for Urdu, it's like I knew I did need to do this,
Yeah.
and so I just built it into the curriculum. So like when I'm making sentences, I make sure like if I'm using a verb, I'm using it in these 5 different ways.
Right. Okay. So you're almost tackling it through repetition, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Well, that's the best way to do anything, isn't it? Just keep at it.
Yeah.
Wow. So wait. What is the? You said there's no tenses in Japanese. Like,
There
there's
are
no
tenses, but there's no difference between like male, female.
masculine, feminine stuff. Yeah. That's why I always try. Even with Spanish, there's masculine, feminine. I didn't understand half of it. Are there any specific experiences or moments outside of you actually surprising people, like surprising your man, your best mate? Any specific moments or memories that you really enjoyed or that really stand out? Is there like a period of time where you're like, oh, I'm making a breakthrough, everything is making sense, you can see the matrix?
I'd say with the Japanese, for the longest time I was just doing the course. And you know how you were saying with your Spanish, how like you felt like you understood a lot, but you couldn't like make that connection to speaking. So I was at the same stage with Japanese. And then I was like, there was basically a time where I was like, okay, I've got a month. And I set myself this deadline. I've got a month to surprise Aisha. And so I was like, what's the difference between someone who can understand and someone who can speak? And I realized it's like actually just like speaking loads and loads and loads. And so I was like, okay, I've got this deadline literally of like 8 weeks. And I was like, what's the most I could do? And at the time, everyone was in COVID. So we were working from home the whole time. So I scheduled in 2 hours every single day on a site called italki. So I would do 1 in the morning, 1 at lunch, or 1 in the evening. So it was 2 hours speaking every single day for about 8 weeks. And in that time, you basically go from, so I remember meeting very vividly with my pen pal before I started doing this. And I was like, oh yeah, my Japanese is going to be great. It's going to be so awesome. She's going to be so proud of me. You're going to meet in person. We met and I genuinely couldn't string a sentence together. It was really embarrassing because we'd spent a lot of time together. Couldn't speak to her. And then as soon as I did this for like 3 weeks, instant, like the graph is just like literally like
you
that.
could just flow it.
Yeah.
Wow. And how surprised was your friend as well? Because you know when Japanese people are surprised, you can't fully tell. You know, I feel like your mum's reaction was way more explosive. Not explosive, but way more like grand than your Japanese friend. Your Japanese friend, whoa. It was like, whoa, you know?
Maybe. I don't know. In the moment, I felt like there was a lot of excitement, a lot of confusion.
A lot of confusion. Imagine someone's just talking your own language. That's mad.
Yeah, no, it was, in the moment, it was like, it was really funny. But I think the one thing with Japanese people is they tend to over compliment and over praise. So say you like learn like 3 Japanese words and you go to Japan, they'll be like, oh my god, you are fluent in Japanese. And even if you continue speaking Japanese and it's rubbish, they'll be like, this is amazing. Same way that I think if you had a white friend and you brought them home to your Asian parents and they said like Assalamu alaikum, they'd be like, wow, oh my god, this
welcome in, brother.
Yeah, no, literally. So, you know, you take it with a pinch of salt, like the reactions that you get from people, for sure.
And have you been able to maintain, because I saw your recent video, you haven't been able to maintain Urdu, right, as much as you wanted. What's the scene like with Japanese? Do you only speak to your friend in Japanese now? Now that you've broken that?
Of course not. No.
Broken that barrier, let's only talk in Japanese?
No. So I surprised her like kind of mid-August, continued learning for the next 4 months. And then I actually went to her house and I randomly spoke to her mum. Like I did the same, like got you moment. It was a lot of fun. And I continued. And then I realized that I was like really depressed with learning because I wasn't seeing the same improvement. And then there was also no goal. So it was like, what am I doing? I'm paying all this money and I'm spending all this time. And especially for like, as a Muslim, whenever you direct your time towards something, it has to be intentional.
Exactly.
So for me, I was like, there's no point to this. I'm not trying to like do anything for anyone. Like there's no moment I'm waiting for. I just didn't make sense. So I stopped. And I think as soon as you stop, especially when you're beginning a conversation, you lose a lot of it. So there are a lot of words I don't remember. I think there's a really big thing between the connection between your brain and your mouth as well.
Exactly, yeah.
So even if you know the words, and you'll remember the words quickly if you start learning again, but the connection needs to be kind of built up again. There's like a muscle memory that kind of gets unlocked when you start speaking a lot.
We were talking about this about Arabic. So, you know, the mind to mouth connection around certain sounds, right? Because Arabic has a lot of throaty sounds that English doesn't have. Even Urdu, it doesn't have any throaty sounds. But Arabic is full of it. And then we were just trying to do the kha and all the kha and all that stuff. And it's like, it doesn't come naturally. You have to keep practicing, otherwise you just forget it.
That's true.
Especially the ra sound. You know, it took me like weeks to just practice that sound. Because we say ra as in ra. Yeah,
No, that was just you. That was just you. Yeah, that was.
I was taught when I was reading Arabic, I was saying ra instead of la. So I didn't even know the difference.
Because he didn't know, because no one teaches you how to like use your tongue to make sounds, or like use your throat to make sounds. Like no one teaches you this. So then when you don't practice it, or when you've been practicing it wrong, it just becomes madness.
No, I think there's a big issue in the Asian community. So I've learned Arabic in like a school, and then a lot of like the Indian lot and the Pakistani people would do like dal and like zal instead of dal or
Yeah,
what. I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
what
yeah,
it
yeah.
is, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's lacking.
That was the thing, you know, when so our auntie, she teaches like Quran in the masjid, but she teaches it with like actual, like she has understanding of tajweed. So I was like alif ba ta sa jim ha, and she was like, it's not sa, it's tha. And I'm like, what are you talking about? My uncle told me this, you know. Like, but yeah, there are these subtle differences even within cultures. I wanted to get into, you said you create your own curriculum, right?
For the Urdu one, yeah.
Yeah, so is that with specific goals in mind? Is it like conversational goals?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's always the goal. It's like I want to have a conversation with someone. So to me, I think a lot of language learning can be passive. So it can be I go to a lesson for an hour a week and then I think I'm going to be fluent in 3 years, and it's so unrealistic. And there's also you have to have a goal. If the goal is, you know, I want to speak the language, which I don't know what else the goal could be. Then you have to be like speaking the language. I think there's a real trap that we fall into in thinking I'm learning and therefore the goal will happen.
Exactly.
It's
yeah.
just not true.
You have to apply the knowledge.
Yeah.
To make it work. That was deep in it. But wait, what was I going to ask you? So you know when you were learning these languages, and you'd say that you're on beginner level, right? Whereas I would say you're on like intermediate because you're having fluent conversations. Did it open your mind up to? Did it open you up to like different types of literature, different types of ways of storytelling, different depths of communication? Was anything like that exposed?
No, I wouldn't say so. Because with both of them, because in my mind the aim was conversation, I was like very specific with what the goal was. The goal was I'm going to have a conversation with X person at X time. And so because that's the goal, I completely wrote off anything that was going to get in my way of getting to that goal. So with Japanese, for example, I was like, I started in January and then very quickly I realized you've got like 3 months left, like halfway through the year. And so at that point, it's like, why are you going to learn to read, like write? There's like the 3 alphabets, they're crazy. And that's not the goal. Like for some people, they want to achieve native level fluency. They should definitely learn the alphabets. They're not going to learn otherwise. But for me, it was like conversational. I could use the course materials and I didn't need to learn how to read or write. But to answer your question, if you don't learn the alphabets, you can't engage with the literature.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yours is more talking rather than actually reading.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because actually that's true. Even the Urdu literature that I know is being read to me or someone's narrating it to me. That's how I understand. Because I can kind of read Urdu, but it'll take me 10 years to read one page, man. It's like,
Same. It'll be like, say if we went to India, we'd get the newspaper delivered or whatever, and you can read it, but you can read it because you know Arabic.
Exactly.
And then you filled in the gaps of the extra, alphabet.
But the thing that I hate most is in Urdu, they don't have the zir zabr pesh, right? So it's like, what am I saying? I'm just...
Yeah, you're half guessing, and it takes a bit of practice. Yeah.
But also, newspaper Urdu is on another level.
Yeah.
It's
so
like watching the news. I don't understand half the stuff they say.
Yeah, so this is the difference for us, I think, because my father would write Urdu a lot. Both my parents could read and write Urdu, and my dad would give speeches. So I was used to listening to type of Urdu being spoken. So you know, when you're hearing it, you do have that connection with it, but it's very different to reading it and trying to understand it. Yeah. So I never gave that much effort at all. It was hard enough to keep it fluent for us.
Oh, that is interesting. Segment 2 is around how you balance your life, right? So obviously this has been a big ambition for yours on the side, and you're also doing this KPMG program. So how was it that you managed to balance and find that time?
So going back to what we talked about with James Clear, Atomic Habits, a really big thing for me is what are the habits I'm doing every single day in order to achieve the goal. So for example, with both languages, it was the idea of taking the headphones everywhere. So that's immersion, one. And then be like, am I speaking every single day? So for the Japanese, it was like, okay, I'm scheduling the 2-hour slots in at the start of every week. And then I have to, it's in my calendar, like I'm turning up every single day. Yeah. Same with Urdu. It's like, okay, there's a half an hour slot. I can do it every day. And what I love about morning time is it's protected. So like in the evening, someone might ask you to do something for you, or like go out, or things just happen. You like work later. The morning is like no one owns that time because no one's awake.
Yeah,
So it's always wake up at X time, do the speaking, immerse yourself with the trigger habits you have of like go out, take your headphones, etc. And then it just like works like that.
And I guess if you start early in the day and you start with that, it naturally trickles down into the rest of your day.
Of course,
Yeah. The same you were saying with the morning at the car, right?
Yeah, but that's mainly for like pleasing Allah and for protection.
But when you start your day off like that,
Yeah,
then it
start
sets
off
the
with, like, a
foundation.
spiritual
Exactly.
high. Like you know you're protected. You know today's gonna be a good day.
Yeah. No, that is nice. I forgot the question I asked.
I actually want to have a question. How would you like build a curriculum for a new language, for example, like Arabic?
Yeah.
Like, how would you create the curriculum to be able to learn it easily?
Yeah. So when I said like curriculum, I think that's like a misrepresentation. It sounds like I've got like a whole course and you can like buy it online. Like I'm not saying anything. But what I did is I took the learnings from the course by Ollie Richards. He's like phenomenal. Like I can't gas this guy up more. Like he's amazing. So he's gone away, done all this language learning, and then put it into his own course. So like 20, 30 years of learning. And from that course, I realized like there's this rule 80-20. It came up as well from, I don't know if you know Tim Ferriss?
No.
4-Hour Work Week?
No.
Okay, anyway. So Tim Ferriss is this business guy. And one of the things he talks about in the book is, I think it's called Pareto's principle. The fact that 80% of something is really 20% of it. So yeah, I feel like everyone's heard of it.
Yeah.
So for example, with English, if you just look at like, I don't know, animals like cat, dog, chicken, cow, like no, you don't really use the word like lizard that much. Or there's 80% of English is really 20% of English. And so what I realized from the course was, okay, he's teaching all the concepts in this, like the vocab, the grammar structures, everything is like 80% of what I need. And so I just like looked at like, what is he teaching? And then made that into my own sentences. And then that's how I just wrote it in a Word document basically. So that's like the curriculum.
That makes sense because I recently purchased a book to learn Arabic and it's like 20% of the words are repeated, like a portion of the words are repeated so many times. So if you only dedicate a small amount of time to learning those phrases, repeat so many times, you have a general idea of what's going on.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So how different is that to, because like say you want to learn Arabic now, but you're not just learning how to speak it, you're learning how to read and write it and understand the literature, right?
Yep.
So how much more effort would you be putting into that? Is it like 1 hour in the morning speaking, 1 hour in the afternoon dedicated to like understanding the words and the writing?
Yeah. This is interesting. So I've done Arabic quite a long time as well. So about like 3-4 years, I think I've been learning Arabic. The pace is a lot slower just because there's not that kind of like goal mindset. Yeah. With Arabic, I was always doing, interestingly enough, 20 minutes a day. Okay. I think that's because I already have familiarity with like we've been reading and speak, like mum sent us to madrasa when we were younger. So we know how to read and write with pretty good tajweed. And so there's not that like, and also like unvoweled reading. As soon as you understand how to speak and you know vocab, unvoweled reading and reading like Arabs would is pretty, comes pretty easily to you. So there's not that like extra amount of effort.
Yeah. Yeah, because I guess if you already understand the language, understand the, what do you call it, the words?
Yeah, the alphabet. Yeah.
The alphabet and stuff, and you can piece things together, then the only additional part is what you're learning as you're speaking it.
Yeah.
And then you can apply that to what you're reading and it's like job done.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Arabic as well. So how fluent would you say you are in Arabic?
I haven't spoken in a while, and I'd say kind of the same level that my Urdu is at now.
That's pretty good, low key. That's pretty good.
Okay.
And like, you know when you read like Quran and stuff, how much of that can you understand?
So this is interesting. The reason I went on this course is because I thought I would be fluent by this time, and it didn't really happen. The whole point of the course is teaching you how to like speak as the Prophet ﷺ would have done. Yeah. And I don't know, I think when I read Quran, there's like words here and there that you know, but there's not enough to like engage with a full sentence, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, because I think when we were looking at Arabic, it's like one word can have so much depth to it that we just, like for you to learn it, I spent like one day learning about the word Rabb. And it's like I'm spending hours on one word just to understand the depth behind it. Yeah. Whereas in English, you can be like, this Lord, you know?
Yeah.
It's different.
I think that one Sheikh Talha said that there's like 30 or 40 different ways to say the word camel in Arabic, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
And especially with Quranic Arabic, that's Fusha Arabic, right? It's not the kind of watered down Arabic that you have today. And then even with Arabic today, I know the Egyptians, like every country feels like they speak the best Arabic, right? The Egyptians, Moroccans, they're always fighting and stuff.
Yeah.
But so which dialect are you currently learning?
It was modern standard, so it was Fusha that we were
Fusha Arabic,
learning. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Is that okay? I thought that was only. Well, anyway, let me get to the next part as well, because I'm realizing that it's been 30 minutes, right? Yeah, and we're on segment 2. So the way that you managed the time management was that you immersed it in your everyday life. So it wasn't really a challenge. You just made it a part of your everyday. And that's interesting, I think, because even for us, when we're trying to learn things, I dedicate maybe 1 hour to something a day, but I don't incorporate what I've learned into my day.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So maybe I need to look into atomic habits a bit further. So how much, like, so your determination and dedication to learning something was driven by a goal of surprising someone. So then after you surprise someone, how long did that determination last?
It goes like this.
Just like that?
Yeah. There's no goal anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think after Japanese happened, it was like, no, let's keep going. Like, let's go live in Japan. And then it's like, I realized, oh wait, that's like kind of 3 years away.
Yeah.
And then there's no motivation to do anything. So you stop. You know what? And I think at the time it was depressing because it was like, oh no, like we're just giving up. And then I realized you have to just be intentional.
Exactly.
So if you're realizing that the goal is done and you accomplished your goal, so then set the next one.
Yeah, celebrate it and move on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
So like even with Urdu, it's like, okay, we've achieved this. There's more connection there. And I actually would like to learn a bit more Urdu and speak with mum a little bit more. But
Needs to be done.
it does need to be done.
It's like a direct.
Yeah, direct hit.
Oh yeah. No, we have talked about it. And,
Yeah.
I did say to you last week we're going to do walk and talk.
Yeah, did we?
We didn't.
Yeah.
We need to create a new atomic habit.
But even with Urdu, so like the time that it takes up, there's like you're taking up the time every day and you don't have unlimited resources. Like you have to sleep X amount. And so when also I realized you can't have 5 goals going at the same time. So you can't be like, okay, I'm going to change my diet and I'm going to hack my finances and then I'm going to go to the gym every day. Let me get like a PT. And then, you know what? I've actually always wanted to be good at tennis. And then, you know, I've wanted to speak Spanish since I was in year 3. It doesn't work like that. You have to have one thing at a time. So if Urdu is, okay, for this season, okay, we're learning Urdu. And then it's like, okay, now I want to focus on Arabic. Then you need to cut something out. Otherwise, you just burn yourself out and you don't increase in anything. You're like increasing 2% in each thing as opposed to like 80% in one.
Exactly. We spoke about this, innit? In, I think, Motivation, Take Initiative. We had another podcast where we were talking about when you're having a lot of things going on, it's the same thing. It even takes up space in your head as well. So when you need to think about something deeply, like with Sabr Remedies, it requires so much thought just running the business, growing the business, that if I was to run 2 other businesses, it would be a nightmare. Yeah. It would be so difficult. Like we're barely keeping alive running a podcast, you know? So
Yeah, no, I totally hear that. I understood this from talking to mum. So I think I get into the habit of just wanting to do everything and then being like, with 80-20 rule, it can make you think that, okay, I only need like an hour a day. How many hours do I have? And it's like, okay, I've got 24, so I can learn 24 things. You can't. You can learn one thing. So choose it, and then you have to be consistent with that one thing.
Imagine someone breaking out the day in like 12 hours. I'm going to do one thing every 12
but
hours.
you can't think that way.
Yeah.
And then when you try it, even with 5 things, you're like, I'm dying.
Yes, but I think this is where, so we've been having conversations between us about tawakkul, right? And how you can try and do everything, but there's a certain amount of things that are written for you. There's like an actual path that's laid out for you. And once you're thinking on that level, a lot of that stress goes away. So you wanting to move out, finding a job, that's an eventuality. Pray for it, inshallah it will happen. If it doesn't happen, tawakkul, it's fine, you know? So, but I think that kind of mindset, it takes a lot of like a spiritual maturity to get there. It's not an age thing, it's just spiritual maturity.
It's like a long-term istiqamah.
Yeah, exactly, never-ending istiqamah. So just coming back on this, so when you learned all these languages and you posted these videos, what was the response at work?
At work?
Yeah, did anyone be like, Ohayo gozaimasu? You know?
No. That was good. That was really great. Yeah. Did you Google Translate that before?
No, bro. Okay. Watch anime, man. Come on, man.
Great. At work, so I did use it as like this. Like I was like, oh, let's be savvy with it and use that as like a networking opportunity. So there's like this channel we have called Viva Engage. It's like an internal Facebook. Like posted it in the Japanese communities. Like got some engagement there. Got to talk to like a director globally. So there were some fun things that happened from it. Even with Urdu, I think I posted it on my LinkedIn and then people just see it.
Yeah.
So people would be like, oh, that's cool. And then I would go badminton and all the desis show up at badminton.
Yeah.
So people would be like, oh, I saw you on YouTube. And I'd be like, oh my God. But then that was it. There wasn't anything like, oh, crazy or like, oh, this is so awkward.
Bro, I was like amazed. I was telling these guys when I watched your video, I was like, yo, do you know how hard this is?
Well,
She's just done this whole video. All right, so the next part is, so when you gave all these surprises, they were all a secret, right? So what did it feel like keeping that secret for like that long?
Japanese was easy because I wasn't seeing her. There was only one time we met where I was learning and she didn't know. And it was like, oh, this is so annoying. That's what made me think like, oh, I just need to get it like done. Like, let's use the next 8 weeks and just like do this. With mum, it was different because we lived together. So that was like super difficult. It was like every day, like leaving the house. I think at the beginning I tried to do it in my room. I just like realized so quickly. I was like whispering Urdu and she was like, huh? I was like, okay, this it doesn't really work like that. And yeah, so I was like going out every single morning.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm not gonna lie, it was exhausting. Like, I don't know, it shouldn't have been that like difficult, but it just was. Well, so I said like the protected time is the morning time. So I was like, okay, we've got to do it in the morning, and then you've got like stand up at work or whatever. And I also wanted to draw the least attention to myself. So I was like, oh, I can like slip out in the morning. Didn't really work because I think you guys realized I was going out.
You're going for coffee every morning.
Yeah. So I'd be like up at 6.
Because she has such good routines. So you don't really think.
It's normal.
Yeah, because she has a very good sleep, wake up, reaches up before everybody anyway, always.
Wow.
So it was like, it didn't sound too sus, but I did think, why is she going and paying for Starbucks just to work?
But I was like, oh, like I'm being, Well, I get like the mint tea, so it's like £2. I was like, no, we're not having frappes every day. But so because I was going out and then walking, and then you know what, Mum's saying like, oh, like you get up early. You know what, like I was getting up and the only thing that was getting me out the door was I've got a lesson, like I can't be late.
That's crazy.
And so you're kind of like dragging your body out the door, and it's like during winter it was literally like dark outside, and I was like, what are we doing? But there was always like this goal in mind. I was like, okay, like I have this thing, like we're gonna do this in December. And so I was like, let's just like, it keeps you going basically. And then also like if you're going into work, you have to get into work a bit early so that you can like have the lesson. But it was only half an hour, so you just have to like schedule in half an hour.
Oh, that's
somewhere.
not too bad. Half an hour is fine. Yeah, I thought it was like an hour lesson in the morning.
No, it was actually only half an hour every morning.
Oh, okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
And what was the occasion that you surprised your ma? Was it like a?
It was like random.
There was
we were
no-
going out for dinner, weren't we?
Well, so what I had to do, and people have questioned this, they're like, this is fake because everyone's in hijab and women don't wear hijab in the house. Did you guys not clock that? No. Yeah, I staged the whole thing. You gotta edit this out. Yeah, it's all staged. So basically, no, don't edit this weirdly.
The honesty is so funny, man.
No. So what happened was,
Wait, do you want us to get edit out?
No.
Okay.
It wasn't fake.
So basically what happened was I had this goal, and then it kept getting like pushed like further to the end of the year. I was like, we were going Bangladesh, and the big thing for me was I wanted to surprise him before Bangladesh.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like this big secret. And then also towards the end, when I saw I was exhausted, genuinely like mentally and physically, like my body was just like wasn't coping anymore. And I think it's not just, I think what it was mentally is the fact that you're keeping a secret, and I'm very close to my mum. And so it's the fact that I felt like I was lying to her, and I didn't feel like I was lying, I was lying. So I would be saying, yeah, I'm just going for like a coffee, and I knew what I was doing. I wasn't just going to do that. So there was an element of it feels like I'm lying to my parents, and it didn't sit completely right with me. Also towards the end, I had to be going out more often than once a day. So I was like, I'm just going to go see Jodie. And it's like, no, I'm going to see Aruj, and I'm talking to her for Urdu in an hour. So it felt a bit, I don't know, the secret was just getting a bit too much for me.
I see.
So it was like pushing it. And then I had an exam, isn't it? We had an exam.
There was a reason that we were going out for dinner.
Yeah, there was a final assessment due, and I used it as an excuse. I was like, Mom, my final assessment's due, let's go out for a family dinner. And I was like, okay, everyone get dressed, everyone get ready. And then we went into the room, and I was like, let's take a family photo. And then I just hit record instead of like
nice,
snap, whatever.
Because the way...
you do your 1 second a day, don't you?
Yeah, so I was like,
So that's
oh,
what we thought
guys,
she
just
was
take a
doing,
1
1 second a
second.
day.
Ah,
And
okay.
they just kept rolling, and everyone forgot the camera's even there.
Yeah. Because when I watched the video, I thought it was like your birthday or something.
No.
I was like, oh, because you said, oh, I have a gift for you, and I was like,
Yeah, that was so confusing. I just kept looking at the book thinking, what's the book about? What was that book about?
I got it
I
at
thought
charity
the book
shop.
was the focus of the... She said,
I got it that morning. Yeah.
So confused.
but you know what
So
was confusing for me is, like, I think your siblings were there as well, right?
Yeah.
And they looked confused, and I was like, why are they confused?
Well, you thought that they knew.
No, I was like, are they confused because they didn't get a gift? That's what I thought. I was like, right, this is the most awkward family video I've ever seen. You know?
No, because you know what I was saying earlier, that for me, this whole thing is like a joke, like a big practical joke.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing it, I'm just trying to architect it in a way that I can like get my mum to like have this moment of like, whoa, oh my God, this is so like crazy. So in my mind, I'm like, how can I do this in a way that doesn't arouse suspicion? Like everyone has to think that nothing's going on. So with the cafe, it was like, okay, I need to have an excuse why I'm going out every morning. And then when it's a surprise, okay, I'm asking my mum, we need to go out because I just finished my exams. So let's go out for dinner, and then we were all going to go out together. So it's like everything has to be like, no one can be suspicious of what I'm doing.
Oh,
And then with the book, it was like, I need a reason to like suddenly start speaking. And so in my mind, I was like, how can I like integrate this into the conversation? So I'm going to give her something, and then she's going to be super confused, like, why are you giving me a gift?
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to start spitting out Urdu. And it's going to be like, whoa, crazy, like a meta moment.
Yeah. And I think you were pretty shocked, right? You're like, what?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm in confusion because she's giving me a book and then she starts speaking Urdu, and I've never heard her speak Urdu.
She must have been tripping, like.
Yeah, literally, because no one in the house speaks Urdu. Even my husband, like, has grown up around Urdu, but she's more fluent than him. Yeah. And even I think that's the other thing that people don't understand. Me and my sisters grew up in a household where we weren't actually speaking Urdu to my parents.
I see.
So my parents spoke fluent Urdu with each other, and we were in a community where we heard Urdu a lot. We would go back to India, hear Urdu and speak Urdu, but we did not speak it day to day.
I
So
see,
our
okay.
Urdu, so there's I think maybe some comments which, why didn't her mum not teach her Urdu?
Yeah.
Because Urdu is not my first language.
That's fair.
I'm not from India, I was born here, and I grew up speaking English, listening to my parents speak Urdu. I can manage with Urdu, but I'm not fluent by any means. Like you could pick up quite easily that it's not my first language. But yeah, so I think to then suddenly have her speak it, it was like
Quite a
okay,
shock, yeah.
yeah, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, now I need to speak Urdu. Like, oh.
And I think it's that connection. I think maybe you saw it in the video as well. It's that connection to my parents because they both passed.
Yeah.
And they never had an Urdu conversation with my kids. And my kids haven't really been exposed to Urdu. They've been exposed to Bengali because we go to Bangladesh quite a lot. But they haven't. We grew up enough in our culture and enough around the language to have a love for it. Because my dad spoke quite fluently, he read and he gave speeches and stuff. And the language is beautiful. Yeah, the language is beautiful. And I think, we grew up listening to, watching Hindi films and stuff, and you get a little bit of Hindi, a bit of Urdu, but it's not, the real language that, is really, really beautiful. And you miss. So yeah, it was that connection back to childhood, parents, culture.
Oh, that's beautiful! Wow.
Yeah, so it is really special. Yeah.
Has she ever said it like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I
before?
know.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
really
know the
sick. I was like,
connection
man,
there.
did we just capture that?
Wow,
That's a
yeah.
deep moment, man. I was like, wow, I'm honoured.
Yeah, my sisters, I sent them the video before. I didn't realise it had all gone on YouTube or wherever. It didn't click to me, so I sent it to my sisters, and they were like, because they have obviously the same connection, that. And I think it resonates because my dad had just died, I think like a year and a half before, so he's been gone 2 years now. And then when your parents are gone, there's a loss of language.
Yeah.
You might still be around people, and from time to time I meet an auntie who speaks fluent Urdu or whatever, but it's not the same as being around your parents.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing because the only person I speak Urdu regularly with is my nani. I video call her like every day. But then outside of that, like I had some Pakistani friends at work, but then I don't work with them anymore. And my network in IBM is like far and few in between, like finding Pakistanis. Like there's maybe one or two guys, but they're not in my team and stuff. So I feel like even my Urdu, there's periods where it gets really bad, and then I force myself to speak to people. Like I just find random Pakistanis walking around, and I'm like, we need to talk,
Yeah,
But I wouldn't say I'm fluent, right?
I'd say I'm about 100%, maybe like 40.
Bruh, nah, get out, bro. No way. No, I'm I'm around the
Is that
70.
80-20 rule then again. So
No. He's put me in the 20, right?
you're right. If you've got the 20, you've got the 80.
No, I definitely. Like, I think I can get. So I've been to Pakistan as well, and I can. It's just like the speed at what they talk at, and their banter is just, it goes over my head. But then with Pakistanis in London, I can speak to them.
Yeah.
Because now we're talking about the same things. We're at like a similar pace. But in Pakistan, it's another level, man.
I think you have to be. So I went to Pakistan last year, and that's one thing I noticed when I first got there. Even though the people I stayed with speak English and Urdu, I was dying to speak Urdu.
Yeah.
And I ended up speaking Urdu with anybody outside the house. We had our group was mixed English and Urdu speaking, so we ended up speaking quite a lot of English. But when you go to the shops and you're in the malls and everywhere else, you can speak Urdu as much as you want, obviously. And I saw the difference between when I got there and 11 days later when I left. I could joke with people. So I remember joking with cracking some jokes with a guy at the airport over the cost of items and stuff. And he understood me, and I was like, what? But yeah, so I think the more you're immersed in it and you're around it, and it was the same for us when we were growing up. Even though here we spoke English with our parents, as soon as we were in India for 2 weeks, you couldn't tell the difference between us and them.
That's mad.
Yeah,
But-
fluency.
Just a quick story. So I was in Pakistan. I went with my cousin to a gym, and I said no words. I swear to you, I just walked into the gym and I was looking around, and the shopkeeper was like, the reception guy, he was like, oh, you're from London. He said nothing. He didn't say anything. He was just like, you're from London. I didn't say a word. I just walked in. I just walked. Can you imagine that? Madness.
I think what I remember is that I can tell by the way you walk. Or your
Yeah.
posture that
He's like, yeah, the way you're walking, I can tell you're from London. And I'm like,
That's very observant.
I was like, bro, you're just weird.
You walk like you have somewhere to go.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
That's a Londoner thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
No one has time for anything.
that's sickening.
So, hey guys, this is Amin, and I swapped with Yasin temporarily because he's overheated. So, Jannah, I have a question for you. I have loads of friends at university who are, it's actually all of us, we really want to learn a language, but we do have the time, but we say we don't.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips? Because you've been doing it for like 3-4 years now. Any tips to like potentially learn Arabic?
Yeah, okay. So again, I think it comes back to like what your goal is and what your intention is. So for example, if it's I want to learn Fusha and I want to be able to understand Quran, I think the best thing to do in that case is, I think you mentioned you're doing this already, is to read the Quran with English translation like right underneath. And I know one of my ustads, and that's literally how he learned Arabic. He can pick up a Quran and understand anything. And it's just kind of immersing in the actual text. But if you want to go to Cairo and speak to your taxi driver, it's a very different approach that you would take.
So in terms of like incorporating it in your daily life, I know you would do 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening. Yeah. Do you think that's how most people should do it? Or, for example, with a university student, how would they incorporate it?
Yeah, so I completely get the university student like lifestyle, because as an apprentice, we're like at work, at uni, and your day gets completely like taken up. So I think I mentioned before about the morning being a protected time. So if you get up, like if your normal routine is I get up at like 8 and then I go to my lectures at 9 or whatever, if you're just like I get up, instead of 8, I get up at 7, then you have like an extra hour to play with. And that didn't exist for you before. So I think this was a really big thing for me, is like realizing that if I just get up earlier and go to sleep earlier as well, then I have this time that literally didn't exist for me before. I was watching TV in the evening or whatever. So I think getting up in the morning as a student, especially because your time is usually dedicated to other people, like you don't have a lot of autonomy over your time.
Yeah.
Like the morning is like really, really precious.
The problem with me is, whenever I like to do stuff in the morning, right, I'm thinking about waking up early in the morning, and then that kills during the night. So I keep thinking, I have to wake up early, and then it keeps going on and on until I pretty much stay awake the whole night. It's actually a problem. So it's also, I think, in terms of Islamically, it's better to learn in the morning as well, as in it's easier to learn. Yep. So I think with my uni friends as well, I was actually thinking with Yasin as well to make it like a conversation where we just video call each other and then just speak Arabic. And then obviously at the start, we're not going to be able to say anything. But I think what you're doing is incorporating it, because you were doing lessons as well, how you would speak to someone. Learning it isn't enough. It's about having commitments where throughout the day, you're going to have to do it each day.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like if you just say I'm gonna get up at 6:30 or 6 a.m., it's like so unrealistic. There needs to be like an action plan. Like I have a lesson at this time, so I have to wake up at this time. Or I'm gonna like I guess with gym it would be like I'm gonna put my trainers on and go at this time. If you just like I'm gonna go for a walk, like most times, like 9 out of 10 times, you're just gonna like hit the snooze.
Yeah. So what's your motivation now when studying a new language, or are you in the process of studying anything at the moment?
I am. I won't say what, but I am, and I think a really big thing for me is like what is the like the thing I'm doing every week or every day. And so if there's no like how do I say it? There's a lot of like forward planning. I'm like I look at myself in the future 3 months from now, and I can really clearly visualize like this is what she's gonna look like because I'm gonna do this, 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 and this.
All right, cool. So how have you seen yourself grow from like the start where you began learning a new language to now where you're settled, where you spent like 6 to 5 months learning different languages now? How has that grown you as a person?
As a person, I think a really big thing for me is understanding kind of cause and effect. So I don't think I've ever had an experience where I'd dedicated myself to a project like in this way. So I guess the only like real thing I can relate to is like GCSEs maybe, like you revise for your GCSEs. There's nothing like personal attached to that. It's like learning Japanese and learning Urdu. For me, it was the first time that I'm being really intentional with like habit building and then seeing a direct result from that. And so like learning languages, also it's like with school you have to turn up, but with something like, I don't know, you want to learn language or you want to like learn a sport, like no one's forcing you. As soon as you become an adult, it's like every minute is really your own.
I think it's like university as well because it's completely independent and you're going out of your comfort zone where there's no, I mean, you do have lecturers reading out PowerPoints, but that's not really it. It's more independent where you have to make your own time and take initiative to actually learn. 100%. So I think it's similar to learning new languages as well.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So Jannah, you spent 3 years learning this new ability of learning new languages, right? How has this ability spread across different aspects of your life, and in some ways has it improved it or like worsened it in a way?
Let me think. I think that having to like dedicate yourself to something and understanding the impact of habit building. This is the first time that I think because I read Atomic Habits by James Clear and then I incorporated that into the routine. For the first time, I suddenly understood like the impact of doing something incrementally and like the compounding graph of like I do something every day and it compounds even though it's a small thing. And so understanding that for the first time in my life, it translates into anything, because anything you want to do, like whether you want to get fitter, more rich, you want to learn languages, you want to build relationships, it all has to do with the things that you're doing every day. And so I think understanding this it's such a black and white thing. It's like I can't speak a language, suddenly I can string like a sentence together. But like how did that happen? And I've been able to see it like with my own eyes, like oh I started like this and now I can do like some semblance of like stringing a sentence together. That's been like really transformational.
Because you also spoke about how when you when you stay consistent and you begin a new skill, there's that huge increase, but then there's that stalemate or plateau. Yeah. So how would people also deal with that as well?
This is interesting. I think I'm not the person to kind of ask that because I've never gotten past the plateau. So I'll do 80-20 with languages anyway. And then it will get to a point where your learning is the acceleration of the curve is it's leveled out basically. So you're not feeling the kind of instant gratification of I'm learning and then suddenly being rewarded with all this fluency, and then also the goal is gone. But by talking to people in like who actually have done it, so like I talked to Ollie, who I mentioned, who did this course. I've talked to other people who are like actually polyglots, like speak 12 languages, read Harry Potter in French. It's so cool. And what they say is in order to get past that, you just have to start reading essentially. So I think if you wanted to get fluent in any language, you would do this kind of like rapid immersion and then you would just read text. And I think the great thing about that is like if you love Harry Potter, you could read Harry Potter in French and then be fluent in French in like I'd say like 2 years.
It's true, you know. Wow, that's good taking it. Also, what I wanted to know is you know how you did that whole big reveal like in front of your family? Yeah. Did that affect your siblings in any way? Like were they motivated to learn new languages?
No. You know, like my siblings respect me, but I don't think they like admire me in that way that they would be like, oh wow, like yeah, now let's all do it. I think Sarah, she's what, second youngest? She was like, yeah, I'm gonna learn Urdu. So I gave her the headphones and the MP3 player that had everything on it. Lasted for like what, 3 weeks maybe? Yeah, she was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. She took it to Bangladesh with her. Yeah. And then I just realized she wasn't using it, so I was like, give it back. I want that MP3 player. I paid money for it.
You know, this has motivated me as well, because I always wanted to like study Arabic. Yeah. But then I always like think of like the end goal. And then when you think end goal, I don't really see like how to get there. Yeah. So it overwhelms me. But with you, what you're saying is you just take it step by step. 30 minutes a day adds up over a course of like a week, a month, a year.
Yeah. Have you read this book by any chance?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you got to, yeah, it'll change your life.
I listened to it, because all he talks about is removing the goal and focusing on the habit. That's the takeaway from the whole book, is like...
It's such a good book, and it's obviously like New York Times bestseller.
There was that quote I saw on TikTok as well. It was like, to be great, you don't need to take a lot of steps, but to take a lot of steps, you don't need to be great or whatever, but in order to be great, you need to take that first step. Yeah. Something like that.
We spoke about that because you know, a lot of people that want to start a business, their main difficulty is overcoming that initial challenge, because they see a problem that, I need to get everything ready, I need to speak to lawyers and stuff. And I'm like, you're speaking to lawyers, you don't even have anything set up. Like, what's the point? Just take that first step.
That's what they say, isn't it? Like, you just need to get your MVP, like your, what's it stand for again? Viable product, It's like, get it, and then you can see if people actually like it. Exactly. But people are like, no, I need to have my website, it needs to be sick.
That's what MVP stands for. It was most valuable player.
Oh, no, there's two different ones. Yeah, there's two.
Also, with your ability to learn a new language and stay committed, I feel like that applies to everything, where you need to start small and work your way up. Even with medicine as well, when studying anatomy, the way I did it was, we're forced, well not forced, but we're told we have to learn the whole body. Every bone, muscle, cartilage, like blood vessels, blah, blah, blah. But what I did was, I broke it up into bones. So then I learned the bones of the body, the main bones. And then what muscles attach to the bones. And then what movements causes, like which muscles to move. And that's how I actually learned anatomy. And then, like, alhamdulillah, I passed my exams. So yeah, I think your skill, being able to learn a new language, can be applied everywhere, because you start from nothing and you just work your way up.
Yeah, so you've been doing it already, basically. It's the same thing.
I'd say language is harder though, because you actually know nothing. Where with anatomy, at least you know some stuff.
No, in reality, you know nothing. If you compare a layperson to someone that's doing medicine, the volume of what you have to learn compared to someone else, you don't. It's not.
True. Because I've always studied with language, especially in school. It's the only subjects I got a level 4 in.
You know what? Okay, so with languages in schools, they genuinely set you up to fail. Like learning a language in school, like you can compare it to learning, like doing PE. Like it's just not the same as learning a language at all.
Would you ever want to be a teacher in a school and teach languages?
No.
So, Jannah, do you have any advice for people who are starting up YouTube or are just like trying to get their channel out there?
Yeah. I'm not the best person to talk about this because like my channel is very small. It's not consistent, but inshallah, like I want to run it like a business. I did a YouTubing course by someone called Ali Abdal, and it's called the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, and he teaches you how to run it as a side hustle. So the whole point of it is, you're not running this as this is my hobby. You're running it as this is my business. It's going to generate X amount of revenue for me. But the whole course is tailored around someone who has like a full-time job. So you're a student or you have a job. There are so many nuggets, like we couldn't go into them. But I think the main thing from that course is you need to have consistency. So it's just like if you're running a business, you have a business plan. So it's that I'm making a video every week or every 2 weeks. And the idea is like the more often you post, the faster you accelerate in growth. But there needs to be a plan. So, 6 weeks in advance, you should know every single video you're making for the next 6 weeks. And it should run like a cycle. And then the next thing is you outsource your work. So things like editing. I think the editing is the main one. You outsource it as quickly as you can and get other people to do it because your time is more valuable than that. Oh, is it gone?
No, keep going.
Yeah.
No, he is the editor.
Oh, crap.
Right now, there's like 7 podcasts away
speaking to
Oh
viewers.
my gosh. No, I get you, because I'm editing my own stuff at the moment, and it's like, to make one video, it's just ridiculous, especially if you want to start overlaying and like engaging, because the whole point of YouTube at the moment is the algorithm literally checks how many people are going to click on this video, or how many people are clicking on it. So it exposes it to like 100 people, whatever. X amount of people click on it. Then out of that people, how many people are like, what's your retention graph? So if like 10 people click on it and then none of them stay past 30 seconds, then it doesn't promote it and your video stays at 3 views. So I think that's the other thing, is understanding how the algorithm works, and what I said is literally basically just it.
That's giving me TikTok PTSD, because that's the only way to get views, right? It gives the video to 100 people. How many of those 100 actually view to watch it? Isn't this like one of the biggest challenges for you? Because what put you on the map was like these little surprises, and that also took 6 months. That took a lot of time to actually invest in the video. And we said it's about consistency. So how are you in the future gonna stay consistent with YouTube videos?
Oh my god, yeah. So as soon as I like finished that, it was a big project. I was like, it took a long time to film. I think emotionally I had a lot of mental stuff going on, because it was such a it was such a personal project. So like I procrastinated it for 3 months. The only reason I posted it is because I started part-time YouTube Academy, and then it was like you had to get your homework in, whatever. But in order to, you're so right. What I just said is, okay, I need to have a video every week, and I need to know what I'm doing for the next 6 weeks. I haven't done that. And the reason is because I hate any video idea I make. A video I make in a week, I'm like, who's going to watch that? It's not interesting. With the Urdu video, I didn't think it was going to get views, but I knew that it was going to teach me how to tell a story. And I was like, on YouTube, that's the thing that gets rewarded by the algorithm. So if you guys are interested in, like building your YouTube platform, there's these guys called Colin and Samir. And they're amazing. Have you watched them?
Nah.
Okay, they're amazing. They basically, long story short, they've been on YouTube for 12 years, and now they interview people like Mr. Beast and Ryan Trahan and Yes Theory, like all
I was
these like
gonna say that name,
big players.
Like in terms of
Huge, like literally like dominating the platform. So Colin and Samir basically have like a podcast show, and they interview them about YouTube strategy. It's like their whole niche is YouTube strategy. And like the main thing that they've talked about is the videos that do really well are the ones that are telling stories. I don't know if you know Ryan Trahan or Yes Theory.
Yes, I've been following
Yeah,
them
they're
since like
amazing,
2016
right?
or something.
Yeah, and like if you just look at the archetype of their video, it's literally all about storytelling. And the reason it resonates so much is because it's all to do with like human connection.
Yeah, get out of your comfort zone. Oh, I actually love Yes Theory.
Yeah,
discomfort,
exactly.
Yeah. You even bought the merch as well.
Did you? No way. I literally want one so bad.
And then I saw the hoodie and I was like, I bought two,
You
right?
need to rep
Yeah, you
it,
bought it for me.
yeah.
And then you didn't want it.
No, the thing is, the threads kept on coming off.
Oh really?
Yeah.
No.
But it's the only time I've bought merch from a YouTuber. 'Cause
Yeah.
yes,
They
the
deserve
YouTube's
it, man.
changed, Like everything that they do is them going into their what do you call it? Uncomfort zones?
Discomfort.
They're seeking discomfort, so they do things that they don't like to do. So then
Stepping
they
out of the
reflect
comfort
on their growth, and it's incredible.
Yeah, discomfort is where you grow.
Yeah.
I think that's because I run, so I know that you don't grow, you're not going to move on, you're not going to improve until you get to that place where you're pushing
It's
yourself harder.
It's a high risk, high reward situation.
Running's one of the hardest things, man. I run for the bus and I'm done.
Same.
You
She's
legit-
doing a half marathon in a few months.
No
Oh my god.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Wait, how many miles is that?
13.
13. That's like from our house to McDonald's.
Nah, bro.
So you're thinking in terms of McDonald's.
No,
That's so
way,
funny.
that's not
No,
funny.
because
What?
our school, the school is right there.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I think again it's like something where you're talking about self-improvement, choosing what you want to. So I've run for years, and I started off being not very good, but then I found something. It's a habit that I enjoy, that is something that's for me, that I can see growth in. And like sometimes you think to yourself that I haven't improved in anything, or I haven't stuck to anything in my whole life. But I think it was you that said, wasn't it, to me the other day that, but you've always run. So without, fail, I'll always run.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually.
Oh my god, so we went on a holiday, right? Tell me why my mum and dad were getting up at like 6 a.m. every day.
Always run when we
Fajr,
go
and then
for
they
it.
go for a run. Like
Wow.
lunatics.
They
Yeah.
were going for coffee at Starbucks.
I just can't imagine that.
Crazy. Yeah, and then they get
That's
coffee
why you see the
after.
city. You can't see the city if you don't run it. If you run it, you
So
see it
true.
double the speed, innit?
No, so you know what I used to do? Every city I used to go to, I used to get a bicycle tour.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's the other way. We did Segway once. We did Segway in Rome, and that was nice. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
But we always run in the mornings. Yeah.
And nowadays they have these electric bicycles, so you can.
No,
really-
that is serious cheating. I have got like
But you know,
with electric bikes
Like
now.
I think when I went to where did I go? I think it was like some city in France that I forgot the name of. We went up a mountain. There was no way I was cycling that. Hell no. Like with the electric bicycle, I was there in like 15 minutes.
We used to do push-ups though, as in like when we were in the loft, we would work out. Julian joined us as well actually.
One
We had
time.
yeah, we had this whole workout routine where I used to do it in like 2019 or something. It was just 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and then
challenge.
yeah,
The 100 push-up challenge.
No, there's 10 different types of push-ups. There's 10 sets
I've
of.
heard of that.
yeah. So I just made up my own routine. I got it from like loads of different YouTube videos, and we'll do it like non-stop.
But no, we're still doing it now. Like you know in Cassiobury Park.
Yeah.
There's that outdoor workout place, right?
Yeah.
So I go there literally every other day.
Oh, that's your routine then.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. So like you know how you progress in running.
Yeah.
I'm trying to progress in exercises there,
Yeah.
like trying to do the muscle up and all that stuff. And
I
it's-
think
it's a lot of
sometimes
fun.
you don't even have to progress. It's about starting a habit and sticking with it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think that we often start and stop, start and stop. You just have to find something that works with your life and that is good for you. And even if you pick, like for me, there's not many things that I've stuck to. I yo-yo with lots of other stuff, but running is one thing that I've stuck to.
That's really good, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear about the marathon. You can tell a story.
No, half marathon, not full marathon.
You always do that.
And when is the Ironman?
Because there's a double difference in it. It's 13 miles difference.
When is the Ironman?
Ironman.
Oh, nice.
That looks so amazing, honestly.
Tough mudder, no.
Yeah.
Do you have
I
to
need
get
to
muddy
go
in the
once in a
Ironman one?
No,
No,
that's
tough
not
mudder you do.
Oh, what? Is that also when you have to jump in the water and then?
So
That's tough
you
mudder, yeah.
you swim, then you run on
Yeah.
sand, you cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tough mudder is just obstacles
Just go
and
in
mud.
mud.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, no.
So Jannah, what advice would you give to anyone, like any aspiring YouTube channels or anyone wanting to like learn a new language?
I think consistency is key, and also having a plan. So if you're just like, I'm gonna be fluent in Spanish in 3 years, and you're just like blasé about it, it's not gonna happen. But if you say, in 6 months, I'm gonna have a conversation for 3 minutes with a random Spanish person that I find online, it anchors you and also means that you start working towards that goal. And you have something to look forward to. And then also like a definitive way of saying, I met or I didn't meet the goal. I've heard this as well, that, goal setting isn't the most healthy thing to do, because sometimes things are out of your hands. Like 3 months might go and you might not be able to achieve it. But I think what it really does is it puts in the destination into your map. So I think it was Ali Abdal he was saying this, that he would go on late night drives and he would just put in a destination. Destination doesn't actually matter. What matters is the fact that he's going on the drive. And I think it's the same thing. So if you say to yourself, in 6 months, I'm going to have a 3-minute conversation, you could exceed that, you could underperform, but you're working towards it. And so everything you're doing every day is with an intention and purpose. And then you have to be really specific about what I'm doing every day. So, okay, I want to have a 3-minute conversation in 6 months. How are you going to get there? There has to be a plan. I have to be speaking every day and immersing every day and learning in some form.
Because it's also important, like I found out that writing stuff down helps a lot. Because it's easy to say, oh, just come up with it in your head. But then when you write it down, it actually makes you want to like pursue it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then I love writing things down, and a thing I do sometimes, or every year, is to write myself a letter like a year in advance. And it's so nice because it's almost like time travel. So you write yourself the letter and then you open it, and it's genuinely like I'm talking to myself in the past. And you write all the goals that you have for the year, and you don't achieve like 90% of them. But it's that thing of anchoring yourself and then like looking back, like I did achieve like 10%, which is good enough, right?
I might start doing that as well,
Yeah, writing
Write the
yourself
letter.
letters is literally time
Yeah.
travel.
Send it to Royal now. Tell them to post it.
yeah.
Not bad. But yeah, John, it was lovely having you. Do you have any like plugs that you can give us
You
here on
could
the screen?
go to my YouTube, on my LinkedIn, maybe. That's it. That's all I have.
YouTube name.
Yeah, Jannah Hussain.
There we go. But yeah, thanks so much for your time. And this was Chit Chat. I don't have the mug right now. Give me the mug. What was that outro again? So it's done.
No, it's done. It's done now.
That's